Okay. There was something that popped on the screen that I was reading, that's why I was just paused there for a moment, but I see the timer was running. All right, welcome, welcome. I thought today I would talk a little bit about the differences between masculine, feminine energies, the alpha and the omega, sometimes called the warrior healer, and why that's important and how that can help us to live a more balanced and healthy life. So my name is Melanie Williams. I'm a spiritual teacher, mentor, soul coach, and I assist my clients and my students with finding a more balanced life, with finding a deeper connection and guidance from within, living more from the inside out rather than living from the outside in, which is what much of the world does. So today, years ago, my very first teacher, Deb Schubert, who was an incredible teacher, I learned so much from her, and thank you, Deb. And she talked a lot about warrior healer. That's how she referred to the masculine, feminine energies. And yes, she taught whole workshops on them, and was so helpful at beginning to understand my own energy system. Because one of the things that we're doing here is that rather than just looking at ourselves as physical beings, living in a 3D dimension, that we're understanding that we are energetic beings, that we have this field that goes out from us. Sometimes they'll say like the width of our arms, but 3 to 6 feet away from us, and it's energy, right? We're energy. The whole world is energy, and that's why my energy is so impactful for myself and also for the world around me. And I spend time with my own, balancing my own energies every morning, and that's what I teach my clients and students. So alpha and omega, alpha is the masculine, the warrior. The omega is the healer. And we each have these energies. So we typically think of like men being the masculine and women being the feminine. And yes, there are more energies that run sexually, orientation. If we look at that, there can be more energies running in individuals that way. But we also all have masculine and feminine energies within our own systems. And as we learn to understand that and to work between the balance of that, then we will feel more balanced. It's the second chakra, Svadhisthana, which is in the pelvic region, where the element of water comes in. It's the idea of flow. And it's the flow back and forth between masculine, feminine, as they are needed as we move through the day. So as we learn to understand them more readily with greater ease, we can actually activate one or the other as it is more needed. So one of the things that, some people just show up kind of more naturally, more feminine, and more naturally, more masculine. And there's not a rightness or a wrongness in any of that, but it just can assist us when we can learn to become softer and more receptive, which is more of the feminine, and when we need to be more in the directed, focus, doing aspect of our energies, which is more the masculine. So in the alpha, the masculine, the warrior, it is that part of ourselves that's doing, that is direct, that's focused, that's making things happen, that's creating the plan, that's carrying that plan out, right? It gets things done. So you can see, like, it's an important energy to have. And again, some people have it more naturally. They have developed it. Maybe it's been modeled in their homes, but they're very, very focused, directed, really get things done. But when we do it just in the masculine without having that feminine come in to balance things out, the omega, is that this can lead to overdoing, being overstimulated, too many meetings. I work with a lot of realtors, too many showings, too much paperwork, just too much doing, and it'll lead to a burnout, right? So that, because the feminine's not coming in to re-energize, to replete rather than deplete. Now, both of these can be balanced and both of these can be imbalanced. The omega, the feminine, the healer, is receptive. It's receiving. It's pausing. It's, when you have your morning cup of tea or coffee and you're taking time and you're looking out the window and you're just receiving, today's the sun shining, and so just taking some time, like, just receive that. And when we soften and are able to receive, immediately we become more expansive. We are able to receive. When we're in that masculine, which is more direct, more focused, if it's balanced, it's not necessarily contracted, it's just like, right? Forward motion. And with the feminine, when we're in that softer state, we're more receptive. That's where we can access more of our intuition, of our guidance, of like, oh, what's the next best step? And then when we've received that, then we pull from our masculine and say, okay, let's go get that done. Let's take that next step. So you can see both are important, but if we just stay in the masculine, what's next, what's next, what's next, and we keep taking steps, but it's not nurtured by this side, it'll only take us so far, and then it'll be take us to the end of the cliff, really. But like if we can go like, okay, I'm gonna hand off and get quiet, get soft, relax, take some breath, receive your breath, receive the quiet, receive the moment. What would be the next best step? No matter where you are, whether it's about money, whether it's about a relationship, whether it's about health, it doesn't matter, but like just pausing, maybe even put your hand on your heart. What would be the next best step, the next highest step? And you just sit quietly. And maybe something will arise in that moment, maybe not. That's okay. Then just go on and kind of carry on with your day. And then something can drop in, perhaps later that day or the next week or who knows when. But all of a sudden it's like, oh, yes. And then boom, you go. What's interesting is that when we pause and take time to drop in to that softer part of ourselves, that receptive part of ourselves, the guidance that we receive there, and that then the masculine, the alpha receives, could take us further, faster, with much greater ease than if we're just like pounding our head against the wall. What's next? What's next? I gotta make something happen. I gotta make more phone calls. I gotta do this. I gotta do that, rather than like, oh, okay. And sometimes the guidance can even be like, oh, go take a walk. And you're like, what? I've got this whole big list of things to do, but it's very clear, like you can just feel the softening in your body about go take a walk. So you're like, okay, I'm doing this practice, I'm just going to trust that. So you go out and take a walk, and on your walk, maybe it is that you just get refreshed, renewed, and you come back, and then suddenly like, oh yeah, this is what I need to do. Or maybe on your walk, you got a whole download of your next project, or of how you can approach a conversation or whatever it is, and that walk was exactly what was needed. So just trust whatever comes in without questioning it. So when we, if we have a practice where we pause, find some sacred space, take some time, even a few breaths, let the body relax, ask some of those questions. What's the next best thing I can do here? What else is possible here? What would assist me this relationship, the world, the most in this day, in these next few moments, in these next few weeks, whatever it is, and then we pause and we do it. As we do that, then there gets to be like this flow, right? And each energizes the next, right? Because if we also try to take action just from our feminine, we're not going to get very far, because we need that masculine energy to propel us forward. So it's this dance, right? It's this dance back and forth. So what happens when we get out of balance and we're doing too many meetings, too much this, too much that, right? Then yeah, we get overwhelmed. We get burnt out because we're not getting that pause, that softness to allow rejuvenating energies to come back into the body. So it becomes overstimulating, and we become depleted. So that some of those are some of the things, and it's like we can go into like just shut down. Sometimes we just can't even do anything because we've been doing, and then all of a sudden like the system crashes and it needs a total reboot. Maybe that reboot then is going to take 3 days or 3 hours or whatever. Whereas if you had just taken those little pauses during the day, even if you're tired, maybe it's just a little bit of a reboot. Okay? So you can hear even with the language that like I'm talking about, you know, our body as a system, an energy system. If we get out of balance on the omega, the feminine, then, and we talk about being a healer, but then we start to give too much. We think we need to heal everybody, that's our job to fix. Which is fixing, it's like, really there's nothing to fix, but that's more the masculine, where it's just like, what can I do next? With the feminine is, if we start to do that too much, we're over giving, we over nurturing, over nourishing, right? And nurturing and nourishing is a very feminine quality, and it's something we do easily. But if we overdo it without nurturing and nourishing ourselves, which we do in the quiet, in the pause, then we can get burnt out. Now, nurturing and nourishing doesn't always have to be in the quiet space. I do think that most people lack that in their lives, but of course, like nurturing and nourishing can be like going out with friends, going to a movie, you know, going to your book club, whatever that is. So there's many ways to nurture and nourish, but don't forget and don't neglect that part of just being in the quiet and being with yourself, right? When we become out of balance in the omega healer part of ourselves, also it's like we've been too much in the people pleasing. Well, I often hear my clients, just the other day, somebody, I can't remember what the scenario was, but it was like, yeah, but I'll disappoint them. And I hear that oftentimes, and I've certainly experienced that myself. Well, I don't want to say no, I don't, because like I'll disappoint them. But what about me? Will I be disappointing myself? And of course, we have to look at situation by situation, because of course, sometimes we do step out a little bit more for someone else, because sometimes there is a need for that, right? It's not like this is black and white. There are certainly gray areas, but you have to keep checking in with yourself. Do I need, you know, to get centered, to get connected with myself? And again, on this side, if there's too much of that people pleasing, too much giving without giving to ourselves, again, we'll be burnt out. We'll get depleted on either side that's out of balance. So it's just starting to check in. And the other thing about like, sometimes in the out of balance of the feminine can be like, wow, I'm just laying on the couch all day watching Netflix or whatever. It's like, oh, and maybe that's exactly what's needed. Again, you have to check in with yourself. But maybe it's like, oh, maybe some alpha needs to be activated. Maybe maybe what's really being called for, I'm being invited to, like, just go sit on the front step. Just go walk around the block. Just take some action. Sometimes just taking a little action can grease the wheel. There's an exercise that I teach and that I use many, many times. It's like, if there's something that feels difficult, start with 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Just like, okay, I'm going to do this for 1 minute. And 1 minute is a success, right? And then maybe it's like, that's all I've got in me today. That's okay. Then, or maybe it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but break it down, break it down, break it down. And that can slowly then start to bring in more of that movement energy, which is that masculine, the doing. There is movement in the feminine as well, but it's more fluid and sensual and more connected, really deeply connected. The masculine is more like purposefully driven. So yeah, that's just a little bit of what I wanted to share with you today. Let me know if this was helpful, and let me know how, like, as you look at your own energies, can you see where you're maybe too much one or the other, and you're not allowing the support of one or the other to come in, like I do, and then I rest, relax, replete, so that I'm not depleted, and then I'm doing, and then I'm reflective. Maybe I'm reading, and then I'm going back and I'm doing something, and it's back and forth, back and forth. Even like if you're working an 8-hour day in an office where it's pretty focused, can you just take a minute here, a minute there to come back inside? Just check in with yourself. Maybe it's, getting another glass of water, or just softening in the body, stretching a little bit. What's the body need to come back into some softer energy? So at the end of the day, it's not just like go masculine, and like there's been so little of the receptivity to balance that out. All right, I hope this was helpful. And let me know if there's any particular video that you would like me to speak on, and I would be happy to do that. Sending you my love. Bye-bye. Figure out how to turn this off now.